Hello, you guys, and thank you so much for tuning into my channel. My name is Christabel, the original Power Ranger princess. It took everything in me to pull myself together for this video. Please excuse how I sound in this video. Unfortunately, I was really upset and I was crying before I made this video. So if I do cry, that is a warning beforehand. So on this channel, part of the reason I started this channel, it was a continuation of my previous channel, or my old channel, Power Ranger Princess. And I had started that channel after having, gone through a lot. And I really wanted to sort of put my voice out there in support and solidarity for trans women, and also talk about my own lived experience. I knew I would cry in this video, so I made sure that at least I looked good, because I was going to get heavy and serious. I try not to talk about politics. I try not to veer into those lines, but I think everything that has transpired since, November 5th, since, the inauguration of President Donald Trump into the United States, unfortunately, this has had a ripple effect, not only on the United States, Canada, and Mexico, but I think as a South African who's lived in the US, who's grown up with Americans and stuff, I don't know, a lot, I watched in horror. There are a lot of things that I just decided that I would not comment on because I felt that I had no space. But the one thing that I will comment on is the ban, the travel ban for trans women. So let me not call it the travel ban and actually call it exactly what it is. Essentially, the United States of America, the third most populated country in the world, a heavy stage player, what was the world power, the State Department basically issued blocking new passports for transgender individuals in the United States. Now, there was a girl who went on her TikTok and she talked about how she went in to go get her new passport, she had her documents, everything was good. And they told her that no, they wouldn't be able to issue her with a passport with an F marker. So she was like, cool, that's fine. Can I please just have any old passport? It's fine if it has the M marker. I'll take it. I just want to know that I can go. And she was told that no, her passport essentially was being held, and that she would not be able to receive a passport with the female gender marker or the male gender marker. This is a fundamental human right. Travel is a human right. So often, people have been quick to tell, black, trans, anyone who's different, to just go, to just get out. And by placing a travel restriction, or placing something that could even be interpreted as a travel restriction on one of the most vulnerable populations, really is sentencing them to death. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Laws that seek to take away the rights of anyone are not laws. They are frameworks for injustice. lots of people have talked about, you know, the orange man coming into power and what that would mean for Latin American people, what that would mean for transgender people, what that could possibly mean for just other demographics. And the funny thing is, the Black American community, as transphobic and as homophobic as they are, they saw all of this before it happened. They saw the trees between the forest. And honestly, as someone who's not in the United States but knows so many trans people living within the United States, gender non-conforming people living within the United States, it scares me. It scares me to my core because I understand that, look, it's already the unalivings are some of the highest out of any demographic. Already the self-unalivings are quite high. Already trans people walk with this fear that when they walk down the street, they will be clocked and accosted or face some kind of violence. Not so long ago, I know many people have forgotten that in the 1970s, listen, North Carolina had cross-dressing laws. If they saw anyone behaving in that way, those people were arrested. They were laws to prevent this. The people who opened the doors, like Marsha P. Pay it forward, pay them no mind, Marsha P. Johnson, she sacrificed her life fighting so that the entire LGBTQ plus could have rights. Unfortunately, only the LGB exists. And, other trans people have often said, there is no LGBT community. I digress. We lived in a time where people had to fight to be alive, had to fight to be recognized. The reason so many trans people go into spicy work is because of the very real discrimination, the very real hatred that they face within families, churches, everywhere. Now, the one thing that I don't do, even though I spent hours crying before I shot this video, is I don't want to speak from a place of pain, but rather from a place of power. I want us to stand in remembrance for all of the, wonderful trans people who came before us, who told their stories. The one person that I really, I think it's important, sorry. I think it's important to note every person who has fought. And the one person that I really want to talk about is Brendan Tiena. Excuse my voice, but I have to get this out. Brendan Tiena was a 21-year-old transgender man who was, raped, as well as unalived by his friends. He was unalived by his friends, and he asked for help, but you can Google the story. They made a movie about him called Boys Don't Cry. Brendan wasn't the only one. We have people like Gwen Ajaro. I'm sorry if I butchered her name. Gwen was a teenage girl, and yes, she was being fast, hella fast. I'll talk about this story. But Gwen had a mother. She had a brother and a sister. She had a family. The day that she passed, she begged those boys, don't do this, I have a family. My mom at home And do you know what happened to Gwen's mom? She ended up, sorry, I knew I was going to be a mess in this video. God. But you know what happened to Gwen's mom? She ended up becoming homeless. Her child passed away. And I mean, look, the list goes on. There's Brenda Tieta. There's Sonia Rezenkovlu Vavka. I don't know who that is. But she passed in 91. There's Chanel Pickett. I mean, if you want to go down the list of some of the most well-known and not unknown trans people, you can find another channel for that. But the reason, I think for me, that I'm getting so upset when I see all of these names is because I think a lot of the freedoms that I get to enjoy as a trans woman, like I was born in South Africa, I was born in segregation. I was born, like I remember moving to the white neighborhoods, I remember laws changing, and I remember how I was so proud to be part of a generation that was at the forefront of change. And like, even though like I would hear some of these stories and they would break my heart, I knew that, you know, like people like Matthew Shepard, that young little boy who was assaulted and they basically beat him to the point he was unalived, that when he was found, the guy who found him thought he was a scarecrow and realized, you know, Matthew was actually, you know, somebody's little boy because he noticed what he thought was a scarecrow had lines, because hours after the assault, Matthew, yes, was still very much living. For me, when laws like this are passed, you're spitting in the face of Matthew, Gwen, all of these people who fought. So not only that American trans could have rights, but that, you know, that would echo out, that, you know, trans people in England, in Africa, in everywhere, that the world would start to see us as human. And it breaks my heart that the United States has done this. It breaks my heart because I understand what will happen. Like, I know in real time. Sorry. I've worked in NGOs before. And part of the reason I was able to survive my transition, get through college, and get jobs and everything is not because I haven't tried to unalive myself. It's not because I haven't been raped. It's not because I haven't stared down, you know, a loaded gun before. Babe, I've seen it all. It is literally by the grace of God that I'm even still breathing. And I've said this before, you know, there is 1 degree of separation between me and Gwen, that girl from Newark, California. Sorry, I just saw her information now. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And it's sad. My only message that I could possibly send out is to the guys that, you know, date transgender girls. Realistically, this is your time. This is your time. If you're an American, if you are an American at this time, and, you know, you date trans girls, you've been with the girls and all of that, you kind of, this is the time you kind of have to show your love and support like never before, because they're going to wipe out all of the dolls. Do you understand me? Like, this is the time. Look, I'm only going to keep it real with you guys. There's always going to be a point of, like, a point of me, of all of my videos, where I give you my honest, just opinion, based on how I see the situation. I think if you are a trans person and have your passport and you are able to leave, forget everything else. Things are moving far too quickly. Forget everything else and leave right now. Whether you go to, girl, like, anywhere in the Caribbean, just go. I'm being so serious. Thailand, Laos, anywhere. And then watch whatever unfolds, knowing that you are safe and secure. My second point of advice, and this is, look, I'm just going to keep it real. This is not the time to be gender ambiguous. The time to have been gender ambiguous was in 2018. Because it is still uncertain as to how much rights that police actually have and whether or not they will. Girl, if something happens to you, especially if you are a trans woman of color, if you are a black trans woman or a Hispanic trans woman, now is not the time to be gender ambiguous. Now is not the time to wear your gender expression like a flag. It is not the time. It is honestly not the time. My honest advice is that if you're too far along in transition, try by all means to pass. Personally, I would purchase online a hijab. If you purchase a hijab, it covers pretty much everything. And if we're talking about the matter of you being in a situation where your life could be threatened, I know that sounds drastic, but that's what I would do. You don't have to take that advice, and I understand that it's politically incorrect, but when you are seeking safety, listen. Now, if you know that you don't pass, and I'm just going to say it, if you know you don't pass, if you just started on your transition, hold those plans off. Hold those plans off. Just hold them off. Hold them off for now. I was thinking, like, what would I have done? Because, yeah, sometimes I pass, but hell, sometimes I be cocky as all that. Look at my hands. You know what I mean? So, all I want to say is that I want you guys to be safe. And if I can leave you with any affirmation, is that I pray that you are safe, that you are loved, and that, you give yourself the love and the safety and the acceptance that you never got from your family, from this country, or from your community. To the gay men who have, like, well, let's be real, we know the gays have never liked us. They've never liked us. They've never, ever. The only thing I can say is that, yes, this might come across as a victory for some people, but these things work in, it's kind of like, back in the year let's say back in the mid-30s, previous century, there was this Austrian guy, right? And when he started coming into power, there had long been conversations about, not liking Jewish people or, like, LGBT people, because believe it or not, Germany in the 20s was the LGBT hotspot. So this Austrian comes along, German-speaking. I think his name was, like, Adolf, something. It rhymes with the Riddler. Hitler? Something like that. So there was this it started in droves. If you've ever done history, it started with newsletters, saying disparaging things about Semitic people. Then there were a group of Semitic people that had enough gumption to leave before they were prevented to leave. And what happened, I think it was 1939, Germany placed basically a travel ban and rounded people up. What was so funny about that time is that there were a lot of people who had Jewish grandparents, a Jewish dad, but they were German, and they were all too happy to see the Jews being put in, those little camps. There was even a nun whose, I think, grandparent was a Jew, and of course she thought she'd never be affected. But guess what? Anyone that they deemed as a Semite was rounded up with everybody else, because at the end of the day, please excuse the background noise. Y'all know I'd be out in the lobby. But I'm going to make this point. At the end of the day, it was never about people leaving. It was about purging out, making sure that which whatever group doesn't like is eliminated. But let me tell you this, we will not be eliminated. We will not disappear into obscurity. The world is watching, and anyone with with any sort of intelligence is absolutely shocked. I send my love and my light, and I'm praying for everyone at this time. Going back to what I mentioned about Piffler and how, it starts bit by bit, and how I mentioned gay men and lesbian women and all of that before. Let's be so for real. all these same-sex marriages, it's time's up for that. So for the people who were in the former LGBTQ plus community, whatever happens to you, happens to you. There was this Cuban man, Hector, and I mean, you can go Google this stuff, enough people talk about it, but he basically was very anti-trans, very anti-immigrant, very pro everything that the current, American presidency stands for. And it's interesting, he was a gay man, a Cuban gay man, and what happened? ICE came and they said, bailamos, let the music fit you para bailamos. But now the issue is Hector being a Cuban man. Cuba has no, agreement with the United States in terms of what to do with people that are deported. So what happens to Cuban deportees? They get sent to Guantanamo Bay. And if you know anything about anything, nobody wants to be in Guantanamo Bay. So for the, all of those wonderful gay, lesbian men and women who did vote in this way, it is what it is. Your marriages were never really truly recognized. They never were. Look, I come from a generation where I remember Proposition 8. I was in the Mormon church. I know that even though Proposition 8 was to end gay marriage, I know that as soon as once it was denied and everything, people still want to end it. All of these things, but hey, My only prayer is for trans women at this time, and trans men at this time. For the gay men and lesbian women who voted against their best interest, who voted against their families. Yeah, may they take your kids away, and may you face what discrimination used to be for the LGBT. The saddest thing is, and I think part of the reason I'm so emotional over this, is because years ago, not that long ago actually, Marsha P. Johnson was part of the movement. It's alleged, a lot of people think it's true, but threw the first stone and started a movement which later became gay pride. Whether she threw the first stone or not, she was the face of it. And she boldly said, I want my gay rights. Although she was not a gay person, she was a transgender woman and she had no business, but she fought for all of us in hopes that that freedom would be experienced by everyone. And to have that taken away, to see it here and just like that gone, I don't know, it's so heartbreaking. But my love and my prayers go out to everyone who's trans. But I have to ask something. Blair White, where is she? Because Blair White, if you watch trans YouTubers, you must have heard of Blair White. She was very vocal about, the elections. Why has she said nothing? And Gigi Gorgeous and all of these other people, and Caitlyn Jenner and all of these other people. Why are the richest, wealthiest, most powerful, with the biggest influence, why are they not speaking at this time? You know what I mean? So anyways, to everyone who watched, who got through it, who's able to sit through my tears, thank you so much. I love you, and I'll check you out in the next one, and I will not be as depressed, I promise. And I'll return to my usual story times and astrology. Bye. And if you have a passport, please come to Thailand. Come to Thailand or Laos. Just come.